Good morning, boys and girls. Happy Tuesday. How many days of school do we have left? Not including today. We have 3 left this week, and then we have 5 next week. So 3 and 5 make 8. I can't believe it. Oh my goodness. I think you are so ready for second grade. I am just not ready for you not to be my firstie. All right, so does this book look familiar? Remember, I ordered it because Louis Sachar, he wrote those silly books, Wayside School. And normally I would read them with the older grades, but I kind of read some of the stories to you this year, and I was hoping I could read a couple of the chapters to you, but I received the book right before school was let out for a few weeks, and then it turned into the rest of the school year. So I thought it'd be kind of cool if I could read some of the chapters to you. Does that sound like a cool idea? So if you'd like, you can stay on and you can listen to me read the first chapter of this brand new book. And if you remember, I remember the older books were written quite a long time ago, like over 20 years ago. And this book came out this year. I just got it when, like, the last days that you were actually in our classroom. I got this book. It is that new. So I'm going to read the first chapter of Wayside School, Beneath the Cloud of Doom. That kind of seems a little silly. Looking at the cover of the book, remember Wayside School was made a little silly. Instead of, our school does have 2 stories, but a lot of schools just have 1 story. Do you remember what was so silly about Wayside School? Do you remember? It was 30 stories high. It was so high, and in every floor, it only had 1 classroom. So I'm noticing on the cover of this book that there is someone like painting a picture. There's on the roof, and then there's somebody peeking up at her, and then there's actually is a cloud, something coming out of that cloud. Do you see what that is? Is it a lightning bolt? And then I see someone kicking trash out of a window. Ooh, that's not good. Somebody jumping rope. Oop, can you see it? And then somebody looking out the window, kind of like wearing a hockey helmet, maybe? All right, let's take a look at it. I'm so excited. Remember, chapter books don't have many pictures, but I will show you as we go along. All right. I just love Louis Sachar. So as you start to read these chapter books, you are all readers now. As you start to read these chapter books, please read some Louis Sachar books. All right. You ready? Chapter number 1, The Bells of Wayside. And the picture up there, it looks, I wonder what that could be. The Bells of Wayside. It is very important that children of Wayside School know the bell system. The first bell in the morning sounds like this. Whoop, 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 whoop. When they hear it, they know that they have 16 minutes to get to class. That's not too difficult for those in Mr. Hardgrove's class on the 3rd floor. We've never heard about him. Do we have a bell in the morning at our school? We do. But Wayside School is a 30-story building with 1 room on each floor. So for those who happen to be in Mrs. Jewell's class way up on the 30th floor, they must be ready on the first whoop. Todd was in Mrs. Jewell's class. He was stuck behind a mass of kids outside the building, waiting for the doors to open. He jumped up and down, trying to see over the heads of those in front of him. If he was late, Mrs. Jewell would put his name on the blackboard under the word, do you remember what was on the board? The word discipline. Good job, guys. The kids who went to class on the lower floors often dilly-dallied. If Todd got stuck behind a large group of dilly-dallers, he'd have no chance. Inside the principal's office, Mr. Kidswatter sat behind his enormous desk as he watched the clock. I don't think I'd like a principal called Mr. Kidswatter. At the moment the second hand reached the number 12, he shrieked into his microphone, "Whoop, whoop, 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 whoop." The principal was the bell. The doors unlocked and the children stampeded into the building and up the stairs. Todd tried his best to weave his way to the front, but there wasn't a lot of room. 8 minutes later, Mr. Kidswatter tugged on the rope hanging through the hole in the ceiling, and the second bell rang. Clang, 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 clang. Todd counted the clangs. 8. That meant he now had 8 minutes to get to class. 7 or 9 clangs would have meant something completely different. 7 clangs meant a helicopter was landing on the roof. 9 clangs meant a porcupine had entered the building. Oh, this is so silly. So far, he had only made it to the 12th floor, but he had finally managed to weave his way past all the dilly-dalliers. There was nothing to slow him down now. When he reached the 18th floor, he heard this sound: ching-a-ling, ching-a-ling, ching-a-ling. Nothing to worry about there. That just meant they were out of donuts in the teacher's lounge. The scary bell was the late bell. It didn't matter where he was, it always sounded like an angry driver was slamming on a car horn right behind him. It made Todd jump every time. He quickly dashed from the 18th to the 20th floor. There was no 19th floor. Do you remember that story about the 19th floor? His legs were sore and he was breathing hard as he reached to the top. Just ahead, he could see Joy entering the classroom. "Don't shut the," Todd shouted. Joy shut the door behind her. He was just opening when the horn blared, as if it was right behind him. "You're late, Todd," said Mrs. Jules as he entered the classroom. "Right, you're." "I know," he said. He wrote his name on the blackboard under the word. Do you remember what word it was? Discipline. Good job. Other bells rang throughout the day. At noon, the lunch bell, I can't even say this word. Oh, yes, I can. Kaboinked. Kaboinked. What a funny word. The lunch bell kaboinked 3 times. 3 kaboinks meant macaroons and cheese. Oh boy, I've never had macaroons and cheese before. Not macaronis, macaroons. The bell for recess was just a single ding, but nobody ever missed it, right? Because what's the best part of the day? Seeing Mrs. Middendorf, of course. Just getting recess is one of the best parts of the day, right? At the end of the day, Mr. Kidswatter would bang a giant gong with a large iron mallet. It was his favorite thing about being a principal. I kind of feel this, I'm having a connection. This book right now I'm having a connection from when we read My Weird School. Don't you feel like this is like a My Weird School book? Todd sat at his desk, glumly looking at the blackboard. Glumly. Was he looking at it happy, or was he kind of going, kind of like that, kind of like this? He was like not excited. He was glumly looking at the blackboard. The day had started off badly for him and had only gotten worse. There was now a check mark next to his name under the word discipline. Next to that, Mrs. Jules kept adding new homework assignments. Read a book, write a book report, draw a picture, don't forget your paperclip. History, read pages 55 to 59 and answer questions on pages 61 and 62. Oh, that's a lot of homework already. Math worksheet, do even and odd numbered problems. That's all. Science, read pages 29 to 34 and do experiment on 37. Is that a little bit of homework or a lot? That is a lot, I tell you. That'd be more than 1 hour of our distance learning. That's for sure. All right, you ready? Todd had a sick feeling in his stomach, and it wasn't just the mac and cheese. In big letters across the top of the blackboard, Mrs. Jules had written, "Ultimate test starts tomorrow." Uh-oh. Mrs. Jules had been warning the class about the ultimate test all year. The test would last for 3 days. If he failed, Todd would be sent back to kindergarten. Oh boy. And then he heard it, the most magical bell of all. Ping, pong. This bell had only rung once in the history of Wayside School, and nobody knew who rang it, but everyone knew what it meant. All around, kids began cheering and clapping their hands. Shouts of joy could be heard coming from every floor of Wayside School. Todd just sat there in stunned disbelief. It rang again. Ping! Pong! It was the erase the blackboard bell. Mrs. Jules had no choice. She picked up the eraser. This is so silly. It was a sound that told all the teachers to erase the blackboard. So Mrs. Jules had no choice. She picked up the eraser. Up and down Wayside School, teachers were doing the same thing. Todd smiled as the homework assignments were all wiped away. The ultimate test was canceled. His name was removed from under the word discipline. Even the word discipline was all gone. It was disappeared. Deep in the basement, a man with a black mustache snapped open a black attaché case. Remember, that's like a small briefcase. Another man, also with a black mustache, placed a small silver ball into the case. A third man, who was bald, put in a solid gold ping pong battle. So the sound was ping pong, right? That they heard. And then some weird, remember those weird men that we were in other stories? We're in the basement again. Maybe that's where that sound came from. Wow. These books are so silly. The next chapter, that was already it, is called A Million. Wow. It looks like there's a toe on it, right? On a foot, but it looks like something's wrong with that toe. Maybe I will read another story later this week, but you can ask your family to get Wayside Story, any Wayside School book, any book by Louis Sachar, any of those My Weird School series books, any chapter book, maybe Junie B, to read over the summer. I just wanted to read aloud to you to have those connections of what we used to do every day in my classroom, because I miss you so much. And I really hope you are reading, because you are all readers. And I hope this brought a smile to your face, because it sure brought a smile to mine. That is such a silly school. I don't know if I'd want to go to Wayside School. I'm very happy at the primary. I'm happy with the best first grade class I could ever ask for. All right, I hope you have fun with your learning today. I did send a message to your families to see if you could find a baby picture of yourself. Do you have one? If you could, please email it to me, because we're going to be doing a fun activity at our Zoom meeting on next Monday, okay? Have the best day. See you later.